Hi guys, today I'm gonna record the audiobook of Too Good to Be True. I hope this book sets the romantic bar in your life so high that everyone you meet brings a ladder to the first date. Don't settle for less, cutie. Love you. Enjoy. 27th March 2023, Avni. So I met this guy. It's been an interesting Monday. At 7:30 a.m., when I surrendered awake to the doorbell and sleepwalked to the door, I should have known that Raghu Kaka, our milkman, would have forgotten to leave the milk packet in the basket. I would have suspended from the top of the door and left it on the floor instead again, and that our neighbor Matre Kaka's cat would have torn into the packet and licked the milk slowly off the floor again. Clearly, Santatai was running late, or it was usually her Sri Didi's Ujjao sharp at 7:20 a.m. that worked as my morning alarm. I slammed the door shut and heeled into the shower, slightly refreshed. I made chai, black just like I hate it. Decided to have breakfast at work. Snatched up my book from the beside table and tore off the wardrobe knob and dashed out the door. Traffic was crazier than usual as I flagged down a reluctant taxi. An unexpected off season shower the night before had turned the city to mush, and citizens were now left to deal with it. I loved how surprised and unprepared Mumbai always was for the rain. It was like every year when the first rain cloud threw their dark shadow over the terrain, the government responded with waterlogging. Oh, but that never happens here. Let's decide on map monsoon action plan 10,000. This was followed by Lucy's attempts to remedy the situation by digging the city inside out and hastily filling it back, only so that rainwater could find new ways to clog it up good and proper the next time around. Every year, the city snuggled with floods, potholes, and waterlogging, and yet we romanticize the first rain, the the following year like nothing better ever existed. I don't know if you can tell, but I have never been a fan of the rains, especially ultimately the ones I don't have the chance to mentally prepare for or have my gumboots ready for. Deep breath, Anvi. Everything gets better when you get to your favorite place in the whole world, the bookstore. I paid the taxi driver and stepped out. I remember Ria laughing in my face when, a little over a year ago, I would offer to work at the building counter at her family's age old bookstore glossary, gloriously named Bombay Bound, in the heart of South Mumbai. Part time, I would told her before my class began at tune in the classroom. You're studying to be a lawyer, Annie. You already don't have you already don't have a life. Why would you want to spend 5 hours every day selling books and counting cash when you could do literally anything in that time or anyone else? Go have a life. Be free, she said, waving her hands around in front of my face in her usual animated self. But I would fall in love with the bookstore and the building that housed it from the day I walked in for the first time. It was like walking into 1903. That's when it was constructed, as its founding stone claimed. Ria's family had bought it right after independence but had not changed much about it since. It wasn't very big or very vintage in the fancy South Bombay way of things. If you ask me, it was humble and had a beautiful personality, which is more than I can say about a lot of people I know. The bookstore was my safe space. I loved every bit of it. It had a rattly metal gate that opened on a small veranda facing the street. One could leave a drenched umbrella there or wait for a cab if it was too sunny outside. A wooden twin door served as the entrance to the store. The wall on the left served as a gift shop of sort. It had everything you would get in a gift shop, but hung on the wall on tiny pinheads, keychain, pens, stickers, and other kickbacks. My workstation was on the right at the billing counter, directly opposite the gift shop wall, and could be accessed through a swing wooden door. I loved how perfectly placed the counter was. It had a view of almost every aisle in the store. It was right next to a window that opened out to the street outside and was just four step away from the store's cafe where Martine made the world's best cappuccinos. I got to the bookstore just in the time to greet a regular customer, Mira Auntie, who would been binging on romance novels ever since I had necked her into picking up her first one about a year ago. 23 books later, Meera Auntie was perfect companion to discuss all my favorite romance novel tropes with. As she was me, she told me in her sing-song voice how she hadn't thought she would like the alpha male billionaire in the book we were both reading. But in the end, he had succumbed to his charm, and there was no going back now. We chatted for a few minutes while I printed out the bill for her, and then packed the sequel neatly in a paper bag and handed it to her. Most Monday at this store were slow, which suited me fine. I caught up on my emails and assignments, worked out a schedule for the rest of the week, and made my way to the cafe to grab a coffee and a croissant. Martin was surprisingly choppy that day about the freshly baked eclairs. Not a morning person, he's not, but I stuck to my demand for a croissant just to piss him off. Martin moved Martin had moved to the city from Goa a couple of years ago and landed a job at the bookstore where Ria had put out an inquiry on the store's Instagram page about wanting to start a small cafe there. He came for his first meeting dressed in a muscle tree and harem pants, with a box full of the flakiest croissant he would bake at his resume, and regaled Ria with stories about his training as a pastry chef and his dreams of becoming a bartender someday. About 10 minutes into the conversation, Ria had decided he was it just as well, since the other two applicants didn't show up. After Lord knows how many croissants Martin and I had become tired, I would I love walking into work and seeing his scowling face every morning. This morning, along with his perfectly baked eclairs included effusiveness, it was clear he wanted to thrill me with detail of his extravagant weekend adventures. But the enemies in the book I was reading were just about to become lovers. And as much as I found Martin's stories entertaining, I decided I wanted to be loyal to my book boyfriend instead. So I picked up my coffee and walked back to my deck after minimal chatter. Apart from Meera Auntie, who had left the store, hadn't seen a single customer yet. Clearly, this Monday was crawling, and a snail's pace for everyone. I picked up my book, pencil ready in my hand to highlight my favorite lines as I read. Aji, my grandmother, hated it when I did that in her books. She called it vandalism. That's one of the reasons I needed a job in the first place, so I could buy my own books to vandalize. What better luck than to land one at a bookstore? I lost track of time as I followed the lives of the enemies turned lover in the books, and next I looked at my watch. It was past 2 p.m., almost time for Rhea to arrive. She had been driving me to uni for my classes, and although she insisted she was doing it to practice her driving, I knew she really wanted to meet Dhruv, my classmate, quite the cutie. Dhruv too pretended to forget her name every time she left after dropping me, but that look in his eyes when he saw her, yup, I knew that one. A full year, and he still hadn't mustered up the courage to ask Ria out, and I knew she was waiting for him to just do that. To do just that. But I got free ride to uni, so I had no complaints. I was about to walk over to Martin for another coffee when the quaint bell hung at the entrance dinged. Someone had entered the store. Now, when I tell you to sit down for this, sit your ass down. When I tell you that I am about to describe to you what could literally be a page out of a book titled Avani's Wet Dreams About Hot Boys, shut your mouth and listen. Pay attention. He was tall, about 6'2" or 6'3", not sure. I am not a ruler, but tall enough for me to know that if I hugged him, I could listen to his heartbeats. He wore a navy blackened suit, the kind man on the cover of spicy romance novels wear. Not a crease to be seen, crisp, clean, and tailored to fit his broad shoulder and long legs. He wore leather shoes that didn't have a speck of dust on them. My first thought, did he get airdropped into this store? Because I'm sorry, you can't be living in Mumbai and be walking from the street with no dust on your shoes. But I digress. As he walked towards the aisle and started browsing the non-fiction section, my eyes panned up to his face. His hair was dark and styled neatly away from his face, and he had a slight dimple along his cheeks and chin. He couldn't have brown eyes, could he? Because if he did, I would have surgically cut my heart out, pack it in a red box, and hand it to him. But there it was, brown, like the cover of my favorite leather bound notebook. Brown like the color of the singular dusty ray of light coming in through the curved window, just touching his hair and shining onto the floor. Brown like the window wooden shelves and floor of the bookstore. Brown like the coffee in the mug I was holding. Brown like the sand on the chapati at twilight. Brown like the color of my skin. I stared for an alarmingly long time, waiting. What was I waiting for? I should look away before I could avert my eyes. He did the one thing that I knew was going to be the death for me. He locked eyes with me and smiled. And you have got to be kidding, Dimples. And then I did what every girl would when a hot guy looked at her, a smile. I ducked. I ducked like I had something to hide. I ducked like I was in a water balloon fight with me on Holi. I ducked like if he so much as looked in my direction, I would self combust into a heap of Avni ashes. It took me a minute to tell him myself, hello, you are 23, almost a lawyer, and you work at the bookstore. If there's anybody who has a reason to be there, it's you. I slowly stood back up. Thankfully, he was browsing the opposite aisle with his back to me. I straightened my kurta, quickly rubbed on some lip balm. My lips were chapped, no other reason whatsoever. slowly settled into my seat and went back to reading my books. From the corner of my eyes, I tracked every step he took until he disappeared somewhere near the self help aisle. One of the only place I couldn't see from my seat at the billing counter. Minutes ticked by. After reading the same line 8 times, I finally moved to the next one and got a whiff to aftershave. I looked up to see God's favorite child looking straight at me, holding out a book. Hey, how much is this one? I'm fine, thank you. How are you? Silence. Wow, Avni. Blood throbbed in my ears. I was the captain of my colleague moot court group. I would won every locution competition since I was 10. I would toured the world and represented my school and country at international debating championship. Hell, I was also the one student in the history of Vasant Vihar High School to have spoken back to Mystery Sir, who was the strictest, most impossible teacher any student had ever had. And this was when my brain decided to glitch. I cleared my throat and put a brave face. Sorry, I misheard you. They'll be 5.99. Would you like to donate a rupee for our girl education project? Sure. Please fill in your details at our customer registration so you get a gratitude discount coupon for your next purchase. Sure. Interesting choice, I have to say. Do you like cars? I said as I looked up to give him his change, but the doorbell dinged and he was gone. He had left without the change for the 2000 rupee note he had given me. I hurried to the door to see if I could catch him, but he had vanished. I walked back to the counter, my head in a reel. Rude. Didn't even say bye. You are not a friend, Avani. Yes, but still, greetings are cautious. Why do you care? I don't care. I have a crush, balls. You're thinking about him. Yuck. You can't stop thinking about his eyes. Oh, what do you know? You are just a stupid voice in my head. Do you think he'll come back to take his change? Bye.